Welcome to day 8 of the latest Jeffrey Epstein scandal and how it is splitting the Republican Party. So I am stunned at how out of control this story has gotten for Donald Trump and his team. I want to go through, in particular, one big thing that Trump has now decided he's going to say about the Epstein case and debunk it because it makes no sense. But I do want to note that it does not appear, at least to me, that this story is going away anytime soon. And let me just go through why. So on Tuesday, Nikki Haley, remember her, the former South Carolina governor who ran in 2024 against Donald Trump, came out on X and said this: release the Epstein files and let the chips fall where they may. This is why people don't trust government. You can never go wrong with being transparent. Redact victims' names, but release the rest. Oh, snap. Now, the White House, of course, responded as they always do, which is like, I think a spokesperson said, "Who is Nikki Haley?" Anyway, the other piece of news that I think is worth noting is it's not just the kind of online influencer crowd in MAGA-world who is unhappy with all this. It is the Nikki Haleys of the world who's kind of jumping in on it. And it actually is the public more broadly. So we didn't have any recent polling on this until today. So CNN did a poll asking about sort of the release of the Epstein files. Okay, and these numbers are stunning to me. 50% of people, 50, said they were dissatisfied with how much information has been released by the Trump administration. 29% said it didn't matter to them either way, how much or how little had been released. Basically, I don't care about the story. 17% said they had not heard enough about the story to offer an opinion. And then this is the number that stood out to me. 3% of people said they were satisfied with what the government has released. So 50% dissatisfied with the government has released, 3%, that's way lower than I can even go on the screen, 3% satisfied. So it's not just kind of the online, the Laura Loomer, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Steve Bannon world that's unhappy with this. And it's not just kind of people, I think, who are trying to get in on the story like Nikki Haley to be relevant who are angry at this. It's also the public more broadly who thinks this is the way that the Trump administration has handled this is not at all good. So I was struck by that. Now, before I get into what I want to spend the bulk of the video on, which is how Donald Trump is trying to explain away the Epstein files, I want to make one pitch to you, which is I hope that today is the day you become a subscriber to this channel. We are over 100,000 now. It's thrilling to me. I filled out the thing to get my little $100,000 plaque. So when I get that, I will unveil it to you. I think that the reason that people are coming to this channel is because I'm promising always to be independent from big media companies. No legacy media companies pay my salary. And I'm promising to be independent from the two political parties. I am calling balls and strikes no matter what uniform the batter at the plate is wearing. And I think that's why people are flocking to this. I hope you join us. Join the movement today. Okay, so Donald Trump hasn't had a good kind of response on all of this. I think he wants it to go away. That's kind of his big response. But he appears to have settled on something that makes no sense. So he is headed to an AI summit on Tuesday, July 15th. And he was walking out and talk to the media, and he was asked about Epstein. And I'm paraphrasing, but he said, these files were made up by Comey, by Obama, by the Biden administration. This is the same people who made up Russia, Russia, Russia. Now, if that rings a bell, it's because in Donald Trump's really, really long Truth Social post from over the weekend, he kind of made the same argument. So let me just read a chunk from that. Pay particular attention to the end. Trump said, "What's going on with my boys and in some cases gals? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's doing a fantastic job. We're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration, the talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it all over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein." Now, this is the part I want you to pay attention to. Here's Trump again. "For years, it's Epstein over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, Crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration who conned the world with the Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, and more. They created the Epstein files just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton, Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me, and now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. So, so we're all on the same page here, Donald Trump is saying now that the Epstein files were written and created by Barack Obama and James Comey and John Brennan, the CIA director, and Hillary Clinton somehow, and the Biden administration. Now, what we're talking about here, just so everyone's clear, what we're talking about here is a long-running investigation, a federal investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, the financier who was engaged in sexually trafficking and sexually exploiting very young girls. Okay, the files are the documentation of that investigation. The files are what Trump, FBI, now FBI Director Kash Patel, now FBI Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, it's what all of these people, when they weren't in power and Joe Biden was in the White House, insisted was being covered up because it showed that Democratic politicians and wealthy liberal donors were implicated in Epstein's circle. But now Trump is arguing that those files were written by the Democratic politicians, and that's why we shouldn't release it all, because it's all a hoax. And because his DOJ now says that, well, yes, Epstein did commit suicide, and no, Epstein didn't have a client list, even though Pam Bondi in February said Epstein did have a client list, even though Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, all those people in the past have said there was a client list. That seems implausible to me. Like, how did it go from a thing that Democrats wouldn't release because it was going to expose them, this federal investigation, the details of which were going to expose them, to, well, they actually wrote it all, and therefore we don't need to talk about it or release it because it's nothing but a Democratic talking point. Both of those things can't be true, right? Like, it is, I mean, I think it's a little outlandish to think Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Joe Biden took time to write the Epstein files. But like, even if you take Trump meaning like broadly, like their administrations, this was a federal investigation that Republicans, including Donald Trump, insisted would blow the cover off this secret Democratic sex ring. So then why aren't we releasing them? Because Democrats who were going to have their cover blown about this sex ring actually wrote the documents? But the sex ring? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, the fact that he said, this is clearly what he settled on, right? So we've now heard from Donald Trump twice in the last 72-ish hours on this, and he said the same thing twice, which is, this is a hoax. But again, if it's a hoax, it was a hoax created by the Trump MAGA-world saying that Epstein actually was murdered, that a client list does exist, right? But now they're saying none of those things are true, and it's a Democratic hoax. But how? It doesn't make any sense. Don't try to think too hard on it because your brain will just... But I just want to mention that point because Trump has settled on this as his response. And just because he keeps saying it doesn't mean it's right or makes any sense, because it's not right as far as I know, and it definitely doesn't make any sense. All right, that's all I got for you today. I ask you every time I ask you to roll in this video, I hope you subscribe. I think what we're building here is something pretty special, pretty unique. I hope you can support it. You can also like and comment on this video. It helps us build our community here. It also helps my content get out to people who are not already subscribers. The YouTube algorithm pushes it out to them. Last thing you can do, simple. Tell somebody you know about what I'm doing here. Independent of big media, independent of the two political parties, calling balls and strikes without fear or favor. Tell them why you like it and why you think they should check it out. All right, everyone. Take care.